So I'm here with my friend T, and she was just sharing her story about the horrific situation that started with her from 11 until her adulthood, and how the system failed, and how at every turn in her life a trafficker or an abuser was there to meet her. And I couldn't help but wonder, what if the church showed up instead of that trafficker? So T, can you kind of just take us briefly to that point when you're 11 and the things you were facing and the kinds of ways that the bad kind of people came into your life?
When I was around 11, I was removed out of my home because my mom was having a relationship with a younger man. My parents were divorced, so I would go to school, but I always found the wrong crowd, and I started drinking and smoking, and my mom would be like, you can't live here, so I ended up out on the streets. Out there on the streets, I was introduced to, I lived in a highly populated gang area. So from that time, I'm an only child, no family, no brothers and sisters. I was always looking for friendship, and I was, in runaway shelters. And in the runaway shelters, I met a girl who had a boyfriend who was a lot older, so we ran away together. And instantly, from that day, I realized that if I gave something up, that I can get something that I wanted. We were taken to the neighborhood where it was a gang area, and introduced to people who show you, hey, you can fit in or whatever. But slowly it was like, it was a favor for a favor. And being that I always had to stay in people's houses from that time on, I learned that if I gave something away, I can stay there for a night, or I can take a shower, or they would give me a change of clothes, or I can get a ride, and ever since then, I was always put into runaway shelters that counselors will tell you, if you want some cigarettes or whatever, come meet me here or meet me there, or
So even at that point, in the runaway shelters,
yeah,
and in the system,
yeah,
what if the church showed up? I know a lot of churches right now are getting into the foster adopt situation. I know that there are various programs like Dream Centers and stuff
yeah,
that are targeting that population to say, hey, we'll be your family. And that's one important place where the church can show up. But you were talking about, even fast forward, you've been in jail, in
yeah,
and out of the jail several times, and within the systems, the drugs and the things you could get better, and different drugs that you could get on the streets in jail, so there's corruption throughout. And you were talking even about the bail bondsmen, and we were talking about how when you're dropped off and when you finally got out, who was there to meet you. Can you kind of explain that situation?
Oh, absolutely. First time I went to jail, I was 18 years old, and the way the jail system is it releases you at midnight, or after you get taken out, it's after midnight. And so you're taken out of the jail, and there's no phone. Of course, you have no money. Of course, you don't, have cell phone or any kind of way of contact. And there's always these men or these taxi drivers that are sitting outside because they know that you're getting released. And so you're sent out there into the middle of the night, wanting to go home to where you are, and the only thing you know how to do is ask for a ride. And of course, with the ride comes a favor. So they'll pick you up, and there's been instances where ladies are being raped, where they're being murdered even. There's serial killers out there that stalk the jails waiting for us to get released. And I can't tell you how many times in and out of jail, when I would get out of jail, there was always somebody there to give me a ride, and it wasn't who I wanted it to be.
So I read an article recently that kind of sparked this conversation, that traffickers, because the information is made public,
yeah,
when you have a charge against you when you're in jail, your personal information, your address, where you live, all that information is made public. So traffickers know that.
Mm-hmm.
They'll look into that. They'll send you letters,
mm-hmm,
strangers,
mm-hmm,
and they'll put some money in your account,
mm-hmm,
and they'll start to be your friend.
mm-hmm.
And so that you verify that's a
yeah,
regular thing. And I couldn't help when I was reading that say, what if the church showed up there? What if the church became pen pals,
yes,
and
yes,
began to love people right there while they're in the most lonely, hurting
yes,
place? What if they were the ones that scheduled and picked them up and brought them to a safe place at 3 o'clock in the morning
Yes.
when they were released from jail? What if the church? I just kind of wanted to put that visual, that thought out there. But you even mentioned about the bail bondsmen,
Yes.
that they're a part of the system too. Sometimes there's
Yes.
corruption there. Can you explain that?
Yes, one of my times where I was incarcerated, it would go around that if you wanted to get out of jail, to call a specific bail bondsman, because all you had to do was sleep with him and he would get you out of jail. And so you call, these girls will recruit in there and tell you, oh, you can call this bail bondsman, and he'll come down and meet you, and if he likes you, he'll bail you out. But what happens is these girls become enslaved to him, and he owns these girls because with the threat of, I'm going to send you back to jail if you don't do what I want.
So the bail bondsmen themselves are traffickers.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
in the system of the jail, the people that are allowed to flow in and out, they're part of the problem as
Yes.
well. So what if the church showed up in that way instead of the predator?
Yes.
So these are just areas that I just wanted to put out there. I don't want to make a super long video, but I want to thank you, T, for helping us
No problem.
and bringing some credibility and a face to this, or hands to this.
Yes.
Because I know that you're fighting against this and you're advocating for a lot of women and people that need help, just like you need help. And so what we do with Church and Community Abolition Network is we help equip the local church to do anti-trafficking. And so I'm hoping that we can come up with some solutions and
Yes.
and flip this avenue of predators going after the people that are hurting in jail. What if the church went after them and brought the love of Christ and help and became like the Samaritan, the Good
Yes.
Samaritan? Thank you all for listening. Please share and help people become aware of ways they can make a difference locally, even through the jail system, to end slavery and to help heal the wounds of human trafficking.